So the 1992 X-Men cartoon is a show with a very rich and complex history. So much so that I could probably dedicate an entire video just to that. But I think a lot of other people have covered it already, so I'm just going to give you a quick summary. Long story short, the way that they had planned the show out was they were going to break all the rules that had been previously established by other shows. So people had their doubts about it. Even Stan Lee wasn't sure about it. And on top of that, early on, they had a lot of production issues. So you might say that this show was a bit of a long shot. I decided to add this in at the last minute. Hopefully it goes well. It's a bit of an obscure reference. But they persevered, and eventually it made it to air, and the show ended up becoming one of the most important and beloved cartoons of all time. Shows like X-Men and Batman the Animated Series pioneered what a superhero show could be and should be, because it takes its characters seriously and it does not talk down to its audience. And they're the type of shows that age very well, because when you're a kid, you watch them and you're like, yeah, superheroes! But then you watch them as an adult and you start to appreciate the good writing and mature themes. The show lasted for 5 seasons, and while season 5 had more production issues, I mean, you can just look at it compared to the previous seasons and see for yourself, it did have a very good send-off, but of course it left a lot more to be expanded upon. Fast forward to November 2021 when Disney announced X-Men 97, and even though it's been branded with the year that the original show had ended, it was meant to be a continuation of the series. And in February of 2024, a trailer for it finally dropped, and it looked just like the show, with some differences, most notably Morph having a more comic-accurate design and Storm rocking the mohawk, but for the most part, it looked great. It premiered a month later in March with 2 episodes, and it gained a lot of popularity. And one thing to note is that almost the entire voice cast has returned. Not everybody, unfortunately. I think a couple of them have passed away, and a couple of voice actors have been shifted around to other characters, but for the most part, they got almost the entire cast. Listen, as long as Cal Dodd is still voicing Wolverine, that's all I care about. One concern that I had, though, was the quality of animation, because to me, the trailer looked a little bit stiff. However, once I watched the show, those fears went away, because the animation in this is really good. Especially for the fight scenes. And especially in episode 3, there's some amazing visuals. They also did a really good job of improving on Cyclops' character. Cyclops has been a character that a lot of people like to pick on a lot and point at and say he's not good or he's this or he's that. Personally, I never thought he was that bad, but I do see where they're coming from with this. I know that there are other versions of Cyclops in other media that are a lot better than in this show, but I will say that he did need some improvement badly, and I think they did a good job of doing that, because this takes place not long after the series has left off, and Professor X is gone, and now he has to lead the X-Men. So there's a lot of character development for him in this, saying that he's not sure of himself, and he's got Jean, who's now pregnant with their child, and he's not sure what to do, and he wants to step up, and he doesn't want to disappoint the professor. I think they did a good job of actually making him interesting and even a little sympathetic. This is also a very 90s show, and I guess that's pretty obvious, because it's a continuation of a 90s show. It takes place in the 90s, so you're going to get a lot of that 90s nostalgia, right down to Gambit's crop top. See, in the 90s, this was a relatively normal thing. I should know because I lived through that decade. Now, as of this recording, I've only seen the first 3 episodes, which is my minimum for doing a Rob Watches video, because I think 3 episodes is a good measuring point to decide whether or not you're going to like something. So, for the most part, I've been enjoying it, but my biggest concern, though, is they crammed a lot into those first 3 episodes. Like, this is a very dense show. There's so much happening already. It's like they had this just checklist of all the X-Men things they need to include. It's like the Sentinels, check. Gyrick, check. Trask, check. Magneto, check. The Friends of Humanity, check. Mr. Sinister, check. Time travel, check. There's time travel in the X-Men. Also aliens. As if the mutants' lives aren't complex enough. And it's all been very fast-paced. It's like one thing happening after another. Hopefully it eases up a little bit as we go on with the series, And I know that there are actually other seasons already planned for it. But other than that, I don't really have any other complaints about it. I think the show's been great so far. It has a lot to live up to, and I think they really brought it. Like, they had a lot to prove with this show, and it seems that they shattered expectations. But yeah, I think they did a really good job with this. They took everything that made the original run great and put it into this revival, which was what you want from something like this. Even the compelling dialogue that was in the original is in this, especially Magneto's speech in episode 2. I guess the only other issue I have is maybe it hits the nostalgia a little bit too hard, specifically with a lot of the promotional stuff. Like, they're showing like the VHS tapes and the promo ads and stuff like that, and it's like, all right, yeah, you don't have to go that far, but hey, it's the 2020s and we're in the middle of 90s nostalgia because all the 90s kids are making stuff now. I can't wait for the 2030s when the 2000s kids start making things and bringing back whatever they're nostalgic for. iPods, internet forum arguments, My Chemical Romance. But yeah, X-Men 97, highly recommend it. So leave a comment below and let me know what you thought of it. And tell me who your favorite mutant is. Not X-Men, mutant. My name is Rob, and have a wonderful day.